you're making a deal. As a shooting star in a temporal glide, you're making a deal. To be a burned out cinder at the end of the ride, you're making a deal. With the chief light bearer from the other side, you're making a deal. It's an eternity thing for one hell of a ride.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Boy, these thunderstorms, the world changing is going on. Anyway, our guest tonight is Terry Lovelace. A big bio on him where he was a attorney for many years. Again, a former U.S. attorney, very credible person. Him and his friend, when they were in the Air Force, went camping, and they were abducted and more. Terry, you still with us?
I sure am, right here.
Okay. So you guys were, seeing this light get closer and closer, but you guys were somehow, were you like in a hypnotic state or something where you were tired, you couldn't stay awake? All you wanted to do at that point was go to bed?
Yeah. It's crazy. These things have some control. I mean, I think they have the ability. I know they have the ability to control our thoughts, our actions. I don't know how they do it, but they certainly did it to us. We watched this thing as it descended, and we were on high ground. We could see the forest below us, the tops of the forest trees. We watched this giant black triangle shadow move across as it descended and came right down on top of us. And it was, Gary, it was enormous. It was as big as a Walmart. I mean, it was just absolutely huge. We had camped on the side by the tree line instead of camping in the middle of this big open area. And that area is still there today. It's still, a piece of high ground, and it's still cut flat on top. There are no trees growing on it, and it's triangular shaped. Google Earth has a great series of photographs of it from a couple different angles.
Well, I remember you sent me a picture, but back months ago. I find it interesting that how many years it's been, and still, is the government keeping it up, or is it because maybe of the radiation or something strange that craft gave off that things just aren't, really, growing much in that area? What have you thought?
It's clear cut. When I put the Google Earth photos on my Facebook page, Incident at Devil's Den on Facebook, a guy that I had talked to before, he's a landscaper down in Atlanta. And he sent me an email or a message, and he said, "Hey, I can tell when I enlarged that." He says, "This area is clear cut," and he says, "I can see tractor marks, and I can see where the grass is cut after it's about 8 to 10 inches tall, and it's lying there like straw." There's no paved road. It's still that same, just like I described in the book. It's that same dirt road that leads up to the top of the thing. And like I said, I never went to Google Earth to look at it because I would have thought surely it's got to be overgrown with 40-year-old mature trees by now. So, but for whatever reason, and if you go to Google Earth and look at it, it's not part of Devil's Den technically. It's on federal land that I believe is under Bureau of Land Management. So,
but what would their purpose?
Federal land.
what would their purpose be to keep it, well, nice and neat and trimmed? I mean, makes me wonder sometimes. Sometimes I wonder because it's what? Near the state campground? And that's where you guys kind of got confused, if I remember right. Maybe I'm wrong. But maybe that area is prone to people going camping and maybe vanishing.
Well, there's a lot of that. And, you know, we were looking for isolation. We were looking for a remote area. So it wasn't so much a wrong turn. As a matter of fact, we came to we were on a gravel road, and there was a chain across the road that said absolutely no admittance. And I said, oh, my God, you know, looks like we got to go back and find another place. Because we could see a piece of elevated ground in the distance. And I could see a padlock on the chain. But what they'd done is they just padlocked that chain and made like a noose out of it and draped it over the pole on a nail on the pole on the opposite side. Whatever you call it, the post.
The post.
So
yeah.
my buddy says, "Hey, wait a minute. No, no problem." He gets out of the car, goes over, and just lifts up that chain, and it falls to the ground. You know, and we drove right in, man. We were elated. We felt like we were Lewis and Clark, man. But you know, our mistake was we should have put that chain back up, because I think that's how the park rangers found our campsite. And they found the next day, and they found my friend's backpacks. When we left, I'll get to that in a moment. When we left everything.
I wonder
we were
why.
glad to get out of there with our lives.
Yeah. That makes me wonder if, again, do you think sometimes the government is working with these entities where they can snatch up people? Because, again, wasn't it close near a state campground, where people go camping?
Yeah.
Well,
You know, you've heard of David Paulides, who's written the Missing 411 series of books. The fourth book in his series is called The Devil is in the Details. And what he did was he made he's an excellent researcher. Well, he's a trained criminal investigator. He's been in law enforcement all his life. And he did a spreadsheet and discovered that all of these state and federal campgrounds and parks that have the name Devil in them, like Devil's Den, Devil's Glade, Devil's Lake, Devil's Tower, on and on and on and on, or Diablo for that matter, have a higher incidence of people that go missing than other areas. Yosemite is like number one, as far as the number of people that are taken. But there's a disproportionate amount of people that go missing from these areas that bear the name Devil. And that's the fourth book in his series, Missing 411, Devil is in the Details. And Devil's Den is actually in that book. Now, that book wasn't in print when I wrote my book in 2017. But I did some research on Devil's Den while I was writing the book. And had I known what I found out, there's no way we'd have been there. It's got a spooky past.
Well, what type of past did it have?
Well, the first thing that I found was a Pittsburgh Press article from 1946. There was a man, a woman, and 3 children. Their last name was Van Alst, V-A-N, and then a separate word, A-L-S-T, Van Alst, 2 words. And they were driving from Pittsburgh to visit relatives in El Paso, and they had planned to spend the night in Devil's Den. Right after World War II, there was a resurgence in camping. Camping became kind of like a mini craze for a couple of years. Cheap vacation, right? And so they got to Devil's Den, 1946. They're pulling a camper. They parked at the campsite, and actually not all that far from where we had our misadventure. And Catherine is 8 years old, and she has 2 younger brothers, and they're chasing one another around and around the camper, like children are known to do. And mother is setting this is early morning. The mom is setting a picnic table. There's campers on either side of them. And the two boys come running around, and they stop, and they're looking around. And the mother says, "Boys, where's your sister?" And they were like, "Well, she was right here." And mom says, "Well, find her." And they start looking, and one boy runs to the restroom, comes back. "I can't find Catherine." "Well, we got to find her. She can't have gone far." So they wake up Dad. Dad gets out. He starts hunting. Everyone's calling Catherine. The adjacent campers get involved in the search. Pretty soon, park rangers show up. 4 or 5 hours pass, and then they have volunteers come, and they start a massive search. Well, they did a search for this missing little girl for 7 days. At the end of the 7th day, it was going to transition from a rescue to a recovery mission. There were a bunch of volunteers from the University of Arkansas who came by bus and helped out to look for Catherine. And his name in the newspaper is just listed as Chadwick. I don't know if that's a first name or a last name. I tried to find him through University of Arkansas and couldn't. I tried to find Catherine Van Alst, for that matter. I would love to have spoken to her, but I couldn't find her. And on the 7th day, in the early afternoon, Chadwick is walking around in a forest at an elevation of about 800 feet above the campsite, and some distance away. And I mean, to get to this spot, which had been searched previously, to get to that spot, Catherine would have had to taken about a 12-mile zigzag hike up this mountain. She's dressed in a swimsuit and shower thongs. So Chadwick calls out her name, and out of this little cave steps Catherine, and she says, "Here I am." And she was just subdued. There's the strangest quote. If you go to the Pittsburgh Press news article, you can read it for yourself. It said the mother is quoted as stating, "My daughter was eerily calm." According to there's also an article in the Kansas City Star, because they had relatives in Kansas City that took part in the search. In the Kansas City Star article, it said that she hadn't lost an ounce of weight, and despite the lack of potable water anywhere, there was nothing to drink. She was 100% hydrated. Other than a few bug bites, she was in perfect health, and her hair wasn't even dirty.
That's real scary.
And she had no idea. When asked and quizzed, "Where have you been? What happened to you? How did you get here?" "I don't know." That was her only answer. "I don't know." And while I was writing the book in 2017, there were two incidents. In 2018, there was a suicide that was reported. A young woman tragically jumped to her death from a high overlook from a lime rock formation. And in, I believe it was August of 2017, a young man from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, 32 years of age, named Rodney Letterman, was walking with a friend on the Butterfield Trail. And that's a well-maintained state park trail that cuts right through the park. And not that far from where we camped. And this guy had asthma or something, and he says to his friend, "Would you run back to the truck and get my inhaler? I'm going to sit down for a while." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, pal, no problem. Have a seat. I'll run back to the truck." And the guy does. His friend goes back to the truck a quarter mile, grabs his inhaler, comes running back, gets back to the site, and there's no Rodney Letterman. There's a cell phone on the ground, but no Rodney Letterman. Now, I don't know about you, but my cell phone's either in my pocket or in my hand. It just struck me as an odd thing. And he looks for Rodney for about 30 minutes and decides to get the park rangers involved. then they begin a search. And the